What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me, where today we're going to be using Infinite Painter to create this minimal landscape. A perfect tutorial if you're a beginner to Infinite Painter, just to learn a few of the basics. So as always, there's links to everything in the description down below. You can download the palette, there's also a how-to video on how to do that, or you can grab the colors from on the screen now. Make sure to add them in the order that they are numbered. Again, there's another how-to video in the description down below on how to add a palette manually, so be sure to check that out if you need some help with that. As always, be sure to drop a like down below, and with all that said, let's get started. So once you've created your canvas and you've got the palette, we'll get started with today's design. So we'll go to our colors first of all, and we'll grab the palette for today's design. So it's this one here, the Joel Designs 13. We're going to grab the first color in the palette. We're then going to go to our brush. We're going to go ahead and under fills, we're going to use the solid fill. Now if we then go ahead and go to our settings for that, we're going to go ahead and try and smooth it out. So we'll tap on settings and we're going to increase the smoothness. Now I'm going to make it up to around about sort of 90% there. And what that will allow us to do, that will allow us to create some nice smooth shapes without any jitters in them. And you can come back and reset that at any time. So we'll close that and get rid of it. And then we'll create an arc here on the left hand side that goes down towards the bottom right. So all we're going to do is just draw an arc, hold your pen down, and then if you tap on the shape again with your pen, you'll be able to get this line here. And you'll be able to freely adjust the arc to your preference. So I can move that to here. I can adjust the midpoint of the hill. And then once you've got something like this, just tap away anywhere. And then we can go ahead and draw from this point, go all the way around. And then just fill in any gaps using the fill brush. So you draw a circle and fill it in. So that's your first hill. We're then going to go to our layers and create another new layer and drag it underneath that hill that we just made. We'll go to our colors and we'll grab the second color in the palette. And we'll go ahead and create our second hill. So we want to be a little bit higher than the one on the left. We'll create an arc down into here. Hold your pen down so you can get a perfect arc and tap on the arc itself so you can adjust it. And we want to flatten this out just a little bit. I want to just flatten this out, bring it a bit more of a curve down towards this edge. A little something a bit more like this. And then I'll just simply draw a triangle here just to fill in the gap. Next, what we're going to go ahead and do is add in our mountain range. So we're going to create a new layer. We're going to drag it underneath that hill that we just made. We're going to go to our colors and we're going to grab the third color on the palette. We're going to go back to our brush and we're going to go ahead and make sure once you're on solid fill, go to the settings and just lower the smoothness down to about 20. That'll allow you to create some nice bumps and lumps in your mountainscape. And we're going to start over here and we're basically going to kind of create this kind of shape, but with obviously a lot more bumps and lumps in there. I'm going to start over here on the left, and in one long continuous motion we're going to create a beautiful mountain range. So just up towards the center here, creating a beautiful little peak there, bumps and lumps, and then we'll just let them run off on the right hand side and then go all the way down and around towards your starting point, and you should have a nice mountain scene here. You want to make sure there's nice balance in there, so potentially I just need to, for example, maybe just continue up with this main peak here and just try and just fatten that out a little bit more, like so. And you can get in there and maybe just adjust your landscape however you wish. But once you've got something along these lines, we can then move on to the range that's going to sit in the back. So we'll create another new layer and drag it underneath the layer we were just working with. We go to our colors and grab the fourth color on the palette. And now we'll create one more mountain range in the back. Now, because it's slightly further back, you don't want to add in quite so many bumps and lumps that are very small like this. So we just want to create like a very simple range at the back. So what we'll do is we'll start over here on the left and we'll just create another range that's obviously a little bit less defined than the one in front. And we want a nice peak in the middle. And then we're just going to create this beautiful little range at the back. And then go all the way around to your starting point. So keeping it really simple. And then what we've done is we've created the whole of the scene. Now we just need to go ahead and mess around with how the layers are stacked and then just make sure that we've got some space for our sun. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to grab the layer above. I'm going to go to my create options and go to the option of edit, basic transformation, and just bring that down a little bit. I'll need to make sure we've got some space for the sun, and we want the sun to sit somewhat in the center of our canvas as much as we can. So I'm happy that they can go that way. I could also go ahead and grab my distort option and maybe flatten them down if needs be, just so that they're not quite so tall and aggressively peaked. And then hit the tick when I'm done. And then I'll grab the layer in behind as well. Go to my create options and go to edit, basic transformation, and move it down just a little bit. Let's make it a little bit wider, and making sure that that peak is as best as I can towards the middle. That will give us some nice center point aligning. So then we'll hit the tick when we're done. And now we can go ahead and add in the background. So we're going to create another new layer and drag it underneath all of our layers. We're going to create a gradient. So we're going to go to our create options. We're going to go to tools and gradient. And then we're just going to drag down in a straight line, just down towards this point here. You can pop your finger on the screen to make sure it's nice and straight. And then of course we can always change our colors at each of the points. So the one at the bottom down here, if we tap on it, we want the far right color in the palette. Then what we want to go ahead and do is create another point on the line, tap on it and switch it to the fourth color in the palette. And then we're going to go ahead and grab the top color on the line, and we're going to grab the one on the far left. Now this may be quite an aggressive color, so you may potentially want to go for the second color in the palette, but for balance sake I do quite like the dark one. We will just have to blur it out. So we're going to create a gradient like so. I'm going to drag this point up a little bit because we do want some nice yellow coming in from behind there, and we'll hit the tick when we're done. So we do have quite a solid line here, so we're going to go up to our edit options, we're going to go to filters, and we're going to go to structure and blur, and we can swipe all the way to the right and hit the tick when you're done. And we'll repeat that again and again until we're happy with the amount of the blurring on there. So just making sure that we have a really nice transition between the colors. That's all we want. So I'm going to go up to about 90% on the second one and then hit the tick when I'm done. That gives us a really nice gradient of colors. While we're working back there, we'll create another new layer. We're going to go ahead and change our color. We're going to move it up towards the top left and select white. We're then going to go to our create options and we're going to go to circle under shapes. And we're going to drag out and create a nice little sun there. So create that, and then we're going to position it as best we can in the center of our design, and that's why you wanted a middle peak, so it runs nicely into our little sun there. So I'm just going to potentially go to my edit options and go to basic transformation, just move that off to the left just a smidge and hit the tick when I'm done. Then what we want to go ahead and do is just tap on this layer and duplicate it, the bottom one out the two. We're going to go ahead and go to our create options, we're going to go to edit, we're going to go to filters and structure and blur, and we'll swipe to the right until we get a nice big glow from behind our sun and hit the tick when you're done. Then we can tap on the layer and we can tap on its blend mode. It's currently set to normal, and if we select the option here of overlay, it will give a very subtle look of yellow. But if we tap on the layer and duplicate it, tap on the layer and duplicate it, tap on the layer and duplicate it until we have roughly around about 4, you'll have this nice glow in the background. Next, what we want to go ahead and do is add in some kind of wispy clouds in the sky. So we'll go down to our gradient layer and create a new layer. We're going to go ahead and go to our fills option again, making sure we're still using the solid fill, and we want the smoothness just to go back up a little bit. So we're going to go up to around about the sort of 55 mark. And what we're going to do for this is we're going to create some nice sort of S shapes across the sky. So you will have to zoom out of your canvas so you can see it. You're going to have to go along the top and then in the same brush stroke go along the bottom of your cloud. So watch my shapes here, for example. We're going to go ahead here and just create some really simple lines like this across the sky, and then go across the bottom too. And that's all you want to create. And we'll create 3 of them across the sky as well. So we can go along from this angle instead this time. And a little something like that. So it's really simple. That's all we want to do. And if we go ahead and tap on the layer and we change the blend mode again from normal to overlay, that will bring in some of the colors in the background of the sky. And we also want to go ahead and lower that down. We want it to be really subtle. So you don't need to spend too much time on your clouds, but just a little something down to about 15%. Then what we're going to go ahead and do is just tap on this layer and we're going to add a mask. If we tap on the mask, you see this extra little layer that's been attached to your clouds. That is your mask. If your mask is set to white, everything is showing. But if I draw on the mask with black, so if I go to my colors and select black, you'll notice this dial now is set to black because we're using a mask. A mask is only ever black, white, or all the grays in between. So just like you would in real life, I guess, with white you reveal and with black you hide. So black's like your shadows, white's like your light source and bringing things to light. So if we set this to black now and we go to our brush and we change our brush to the option of sprayers, so we go sprayers, soft airbrush, and then increase the brush size up to something nice and large, about 600 and nearly 600, 700, and just very lightly from left to right just fade that out with a little bit of pressure. If your brush, for example, has no sort of pressure sensitivity, tap on your opacity and lower it. Mine's always set to about 70, 60 on opacity with the soft airbrush. I'm just fading that out at the top. And then some of those clouds now will just nicely transition off into the distance. You don't want to make it too sort of faded. You want to just make sure there's a little something there. And then let's go ahead and add in our minimal trees. So we're going to go right to the top of our layers and create a new layer. I'm going to go ahead and grab my create option and I'm going to go to symmetry for a moment and turn that on. You'll get this line running down the middle and we'll just lock it in place for a minute. So we'll hit the lock. Then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go to our option of calligraphy and the monoline brush. And I'm going to set my color to the first color in the palette. And then it doesn't matter what your brush size is. Well, you kind of want it quite small. So mine's 12 just for reference. So we're just going to pop our pen down on the line, draw in a point, hold your pen down to get a nice straight line. And you want to create a tree, something a little bit like this. So I'm going to go down to sort of this point here and I'll tap on the line. So then I can adjust it. I can zoom right in and make sure it links up nicely on that symmetry option there. Make sure it's nice and pointy. So we'll just go ahead and tap anywhere. And then we'll just draw a line across the bottom, linking that up across there. Then we can go ahead and go to our create options and go to fill and tap in the middle of the triangle. You'll get this little fuzzy line on the inside. So just tap and drag to the right a few times. If you go too far right, it will spill out. So you tap and drag to the right, hold down until you can nicely stay within the boundary of the tree. And hit the tick when you're done. And this is going to be our tree template going forward. So now all we can do is we can turn off our symmetry option. We don't need that anymore. We're just going to go to our create options and go to edit, basic transformation. And then we'll just go ahead and drag the tree off to the left here. Hit the tick when we're done. Tap on the layer and duplicate it. We'll go ahead and we'll grab our tools and we're going to go to edit. And I'm going to grab the basic transformation, hold down on it and put it up in my toolbar because I'm going to use it quite a lot. So I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to then move this tree across. I'm going to scale it down in size. So we've got a couple that are just right next to each other and that's going to be our little forest area up here. So hit the tick when you're done. Tap on the layer and duplicate it. Grab your basic transformation again and move this across. So I'm going to create another tree here. I can scale this one up again just to create some nice unique shapes. And we just want to add 5 in this space over here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and hit the tick on that. I'm also going to go ahead and just move these two just slightly off to the left and hit the tick. And then I'll go back to this one here at the front, tap on it and duplicate it. Grab my basic transformation, scale it down in size and move it down into here. I'm going to create a nice smaller one. Hit the tick when I'm done. I'm going to duplicate the one just beside it. Grab our basic transformation and just scale this down. And we'll make another one here. And then hit the tick when you're done. Now I'm just going to grab all 3 of those just so I can just perfect how I want it to look. And I want it to be a little bit more off to the left. And I might even scale these all down at the same time. So you can tap on multiple layers when you've got basic transformation open. There's a little sort of circle with a checkbox in the bottom right of each layer. You can move multiple layers at once. So I hit the tick when I'm done. And that's my forest on the left. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to grab the bottom layer, the original layer that we created, and duplicate it. I'm going to drag it down underneath the hill and in front of this hill over here on the right. So if I grab my basic transformation, I'll move it across for a second, just so it's out of the way. And then all these trees at the top, I can tap on one tree, I can go to merge, I'll tap on another tree and merge it down, and merge all the trees down, tap on it and merge it into the hillside. Then this new one that we've got on our own over here on the right, we're going to go to our create options. We're going to go to the option of fill. I'm going to go to my color, and I'm going to grab the second color in the palette, which is the same as the hill, and tap in the space of our tree there and hit the tick when we're done. Then what we want to go ahead and do is scale this down. So we'll grab our basic transformation and scale this down. It needs to be a little bit smaller than the ones in the front here. So we can have one big one, but we just want to make sure then the rest are a little bit smaller. Hit the tick when you're done, and then just repeat, tap on the layer, duplicate it, grab your basic transformation again, and create another little forest. So I'm going to put two right next to each other, hit the tick when I'm done, tap on the layer and duplicate it, grab my cursor, I'll put one on its own just in this sort of space here, maybe with like a little gap, hit the tick when I'm done, tap on that layer and duplicate it, grab my basic transformation, I'm going to make two more just here on the left of it, so just here, hit the tick when I'm done and tap on that layer and duplicate it. Grab my basic transformation one more time, and I can just position this one just a little bit here, just really close to it, and hit the tick when I'm done. And then just like we did before, we can tap on these trees, merge them down, tap, merge, and merge it into the hillside on the right there. And then the final things I want to do is just add a bit of a glow to here and here. So I'm going to go ahead and with the back hills there, so this layer here, I'm going to create a new layer above it and tap on the layer and clipping mask it. A clipping mask means that this layer is clipped to this shape, so I can't paint on this layer outside of this shape, it won't show. So if I now go to my colors and I go ahead and grab the orange here on the far right, so the fifth color, go to my brush, change it to sprayers, and we change it to the option of soft airbrush. I can very lightly with my pressure just add a little bit of color just here. I'm going to go round and round and round and round until I'm happy with the amount of color that's just been splashed onto those hills. Then I'm going to go ahead and go up a layer to this hillside here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer above it, tap on that new layer and also clip it. So now this layer is clipped to this shape. I'll change the color. I'll change it to this, to the fourth color in that row. And then I'm going to reduce my brush size down to about 400, and then just very lightly again, circular motion on the top of that hill, just brighten that up just a little bit. And you'll end up with a little bit of a glow on that top peak. Then what we can also do is just go to our colors, and we can grab this color here, the second color in the palette. Make the brush size a little bit bigger again, about 600, and just go left to right, and you'll just darken up this area here. So left to right, and just introduce a little bit of shadow just down here. But be careful not to blend it too much into this hill. And then if we go ahead and pinch with two fingers, we go full screen with 4, we end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed this very minimal landscape with a little sunrise or sunset, either. As always, please be sure to share your designs with me over on Instagram. There's a link to all my socials in the description down below. And if you liked this video, you'll probably like the one that's on the screen now. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.